Now you know how it feels to die slowly." The words fell from her lips like poison, soft and deliberate. Amara sat perfectly still in the dining chair, her hands folded in her lap, watching her husband convulse on the marble floor. Daniel's eyes bulged wide with terror, his fingers clawing at his throat as foam gathered at the corners of his mouth. The crystal chandelier above cast dancing shadows across his contorted face. She didn't move, didn't scream, didn't call for help. She simply watched. His body jerked violently once, twice, then went still. The silence that followed was absolute, broken only by the soft ticking of the grandfather clock in the corner. Amara tilted her head slightly, studying him the way one might observe a dying insect, with detached curiosity and something darker underneath. Then she reached for her phone. But wait. Before we continue, hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back. If this is your first time here, I'm so grateful you found us. And if you're returning, thank you for being part of this family. Before we dive deeper into Amara's story, I have one small request. Please take a moment to subscribe. Your support breathes life into these stories, and I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? 6 months earlier, Chief Donovan Nwoko stood at the floor-to-ceiling window of his Manhattan penthouse, staring out at the city that glittered like a constellation beneath him. He was 73 years old, though his spine remained straight, his shoulders broad. A self-made man, a warrior who had clawed his way from the red dirt of a Nigerian village to the pinnacle of global wealth. Oil, hotels, real estate. His empire stretched across 2 continents worth billions. But tonight, none of it mattered. Behind him, on the leather sofa, sat his 2 children. Daniel, 28, sprawled carelessly with his phone in hand, scrolling through messages from women whose faces he'd already forgotten. Diana, 25, examined her freshly manicured nails, her mind likely calculating the cost of her next shopping trip to Paris. They had no idea their father was dying. Cancer. Stage 4. The doctors had given him 6 months, maybe less. He'd known for a year, but told no one. Not his children. Not his business partners. No one. He turned to face them now, his jaw tight. "I'm sending you both to Lagos," he said, his voice low and firm. Daniel looked up, his brow furrowed in confusion. "Lagos? Why?" "To oversee the Nigerian operations." Diana laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. "Daddy, you can't be serious." "Nigeria? I have a fashion week in Milan next month." Chief Donovan's eyes hardened. "You'll cancel it." "But..." "Enough." His voice cracked like thunder. "You leave in 3 days. Both of you." Daniel leaned back, smirking. "You're punishing us for something?" Chief Donovan said nothing. He simply turned back to the window, his reflection ghostly in the glass. Punishment. Lesson. Last hope. Call it whatever you wanted. His children had grown rotten in their privilege, and he refused to die knowing he'd failed them. If they wouldn't learn responsibility by choice, he'd force it upon them. 3 days later, the private jet descended through thick clouds, breaking into the humid haze that clung to the city like a second skin. Daniel peered out the window, his lip curling in distaste. Below, Lagos sprawled endlessly, a chaotic blend of luxury and poverty. Glass towers rising beside rusted tin roofs, traffic snarled like tangled wire. "How bad can it be?" he muttered. Beside him, Diana sighed dramatically, already dreading the heat. The Nwoko family mansion in Lagos was enormous, a sprawling estate hidden behind high walls and iron gates. Marble floors, gold fixtures, imported furniture. But to Daniel and Diana, it felt like exile. Within a week, Daniel had found his footing. Lagos had nightlife. Exclusive clubs. Beautiful women. Lots of them. He made friends quickly, the kind of friends who matched his appetite for excess. Every night became a blur of champagne, loud music, and skin. He didn't hide it. Not from the drivers. Not from the housekeepers. Certainly not from the live-in maid who quietly entered his room each morning to clean up the evidence of his recklessness. Her name was Amara. She was 23, slender, with skin like polished mahogany and eyes that held a kind of sad, stubborn hope. Every morning, she swept up the empty bottles, changed the sheets that reeked of perfume, and said nothing. She'd grown up in a village 2 hours outside Lagos, the eldest of 6 children. Her father was a subsistence farmer. Her mother sold vegetables at the roadside. Amara had come to the city with one dream, to escape poverty. And she believed, with every fiber of her being, that God would send her a rich man. A good man. A man who would save her. She prayed every night before bed, whispering the same words. "God, please remember me. One morning, as she bent to pick up discarded clothes from Daniel's floor, she felt it. A gaze. She straightened slowly, her heart skipping. In the mirror across the room, Daniel stood in the doorway, shirtless, watching her. Not with lust. Not yet. But with something else. Curiosity. Calculation. For the first time, he truly saw her. And Amara, naive and hopeful, felt her pulse quicken. She had no idea she was staring into the eyes of her future nightmare. Daniel Nwoko didn't believe in boredom. He believed in pleasure, conquest, and the thrill of getting exactly what he wanted, whenever he wanted it. Lagos, he discovered, was full of possibilities. Within 2 weeks of landing in Nigeria, he'd already made a name for himself. The club owners knew him by sight. The girls whispered his name with a mix of desire and desperation. Money flowed from his hands like water, and he let it, because money was the only language he'd ever truly mastered. He moved through the city's nightlife like a king surveying his kingdom. Exclusive lounges with velvet ropes and private rooms. High-end bars where champagne cost more than most people's monthly rent. Places where women draped themselves over him like expensive jewelry, their laughter bright and hollow. His friends, sons of other wealthy families, encouraged him. They made bets. Competitions. Who could seduce the most women in a week? Who could charm a model? Who could make a girl fall in love and disappear before sunrise? Daniel always won. But winning, he was learning, felt emptier each time. Still, he didn't stop. Stopping would mean thinking. Thinking would mean feeling. And feeling, Daniel had decided long ago, was a weakness he couldn't afford. At the mansion, life moved in silent rhythms. Amara woke every morning at 5, before the sun painted the sky pink. She prayed first, kneeling on the thin mat beside her bed in the servants' quarters, her lips moving in whispered devotion. God, please remember me. Don't let me suffer forever. Send me a man who will love me. A man who will lift my family from this poverty. Please, God, remember me. The same prayer. Every single day. After prayers, she moved through the house like a shadow. She cleaned the sitting room, polished the banisters, prepared breakfast for the household. And then, when the clock struck 7, she climbed the stairs to Daniel's bedroom. This was the part of her day she dreaded most. The door was always unlocked. She pushed it open slowly, holding her breath against the smell that greeted her. Perfume, alcohol, sweat, the sour tang of excess. The bed was never empty. Sometimes there was one girl. Sometimes two. They lay tangled in the silk sheets, their makeup smeared, their expensive dresses discarded on the floor like trash. Amara kept her eyes down. She moved quickly, quietly, gathering bottles, picking up clothes, folding away the evidence of a life she couldn't understand. The girls never acknowledged her. To them, she was invisible. A servant. Less than human. But Daniel had started to notice. It began with small things. One morning, as Amara bent to retrieve a champagne bottle from under the bed, she felt his eyes on her. She glanced up and saw him standing near the window, shirtless, his arms crossed, watching her with an expression she couldn't read. She quickly looked away, her cheeks burning. "What's your name?" he asked, his voice rough from sleep. She froze. He'd never spoken to her before. Not directly. "Amara, sir," she whispered, clutching the bottle. "Amara." He repeated it slowly, as if tasting the syllables. Then he nodded and turned away, dismissing her. She fled the room, her heart racing. The next morning, he was waiting for her. She opened the door to find him sitting on the edge of the bed, fully dressed this time, scrolling through his phone. The room was cleaner than usual. No girls. No bottles. "Good morning, sir," she murmured, stepping inside. "You're always so quiet," he said without looking up. "Do you ever talk?" Amara hesitated. I don't want to disturb you, sir." "You don't disturb me." He finally looked at her, his gaze sharp, penetrating. "You're different from the others." She didn't know what to say, so she said nothing. She moved to the far side of the room and began dusting the dresser, her hands trembling slightly. Daniel watched her for a long moment, then stood and walked out, leaving her alone with her confusion. That night, Amara lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling. Her roommate, another housemaid named Blessing, snored softly on the other side of the room. Amara couldn't sleep. Daniel's words echoed in her mind. "You're different from the others." What did that mean? She thought of the girls she cleaned up after. Beautiful girls. Sophisticated girls. Girls who wore designer clothes and spoke with confidence. Girls who belonged in Daniel's world. She was nothing like them. She was just a maid. A poor village girl with calloused hands and faded dresses. but still a small, dangerous hope flickered in her chest. God, is this you? Is this the miracle I've been praying for? She pressed her hands together and prayed again, whispering into the darkness. Across the mansion, Daniel stood on his balcony, a glass of whiskey in his hand, staring out at the city lights. He was thinking about Amara. Not the way he thought about other women. Not with lust or hunger. No, this was different. This was strategic. His father's condition echoed in his mind. Marriage. The will required marriage. He couldn't marry one of the socialites or models who circled him like vultures. They wanted his money, sure, but they also had ambition. Demands. Expectations. They wouldn't be easy to control. But Amara? Amara was humble. Naive. Desperate, even, though she tried to hide it behind her prayers and quiet dignity. She was perfect. A slow smile spread across Daniel's face as he took another sip of whiskey. He didn't need to love her. He just needed to convince her that he did. And Daniel Nwoko had never failed at a seduction. The next morning, when Amara entered his room, she found a single red rose lying on the pillow. Her breath caught. No note. No explanation. Just a rose. And somewhere in the mansion, Daniel waited, knowing the game had just begun. Thank you for being here. If this story is touching your heart, please subscribe and share it. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support gives voice to the voiceless. The rose was just the beginning. Amara held it in her trembling hands, bringing it close to her face. The petals were soft, deep crimson, still fresh with morning dew. She looked around the empty bedroom, her heart hammering in her chest. Why would he give me this? She wanted to ask someone, anyone, but who would believe her? Who would understand? So she kept it to herself, pressing the rose between the pages of her Bible that night, whispering prayers of confusion and hope. The next morning, there were 2 roses. The morning after that, a small box of chocolates sat beside 3 roses. By the end of the week, Daniel had stopped pretending to be subtle. He found her in the kitchen one afternoon, her hands deep in soapy water, scrubbing dishes. The other staff had gone to the market, leaving her alone. Amara. She jumped at the sound of his voice, spinning around, water dripping from her hands. Daniel stood in the doorway, dressed in an expensive navy shirt, his presence filling the entire room. Sir, I didn't hear you come in. I wanted to talk to you. He stepped closer, and she instinctively stepped back, her spine pressing against the counter. About what, sir? Stop calling me sir. His voice was softer now, almost gentle. My name is Daniel. Her eyes widened. I can't. It wouldn't be proper. Proper? He smiled, a slow, calculated smile. Amara, do you know what I see when I look at you? She shook her head, unable to speak. I see a woman who deserves more than this. He gestured around the kitchen. More than washing dishes. More than cleaning up after people who don't even see you. Tears pricked her eyes. No one had ever spoken to her like this before. No one had ever made her feel seen. I don't understand, she whispered. You will. He reached out and gently took her wet hand in his thumb brushing across her knuckles. Give me a chance to show you. Then he left, leaving her standing there, her heart racing, her entire world tilting on its axis. 3 weeks later, the news came in the middle of the night. A phone call. Frantic voices. Tears. Chief Donovan Nwoko was dead. Daniel sat on the edge of his bed, phone pressed to his ear, listening to his mother's broken sobs from across the ocean. Cancer. His father had been fighting cancer for over a year, and no one had told them. No one had given them a chance to say goodbye. When he hung up, he didn't cry. He sat in the darkness, staring at nothing, feeling a hollow ache spread through his chest. His father had sent them here to teach them something. Responsibility. Character. Lessons Daniel had ignored, too busy chasing pleasure to notice the message. And now it was too late. The funeral was held in Nigeria, as tradition demanded. Chief Donovan's body was flown back to his ancestral village, where thousands gathered to pay respects to the man who had risen from poverty to build an empire. Daniel stood at the graveside in an expensive black suit, his face expressionless. Beside him, Diana wept dramatically, clutching their mother's arm. But even in his grief, Daniel's eyes wandered. To the women in attendance, to the curves beneath their mourning clothes, to the distraction that kept him from feeling too much. His mother caught him staring and grabbed his arm, her nails digging into his skin. What is wrong with you? She hissed. Your father is being buried, and you're looking at women? Daniel shrugged, his voice flat. People mourn differently, mother. This is how I cope. She slapped him. Hard. The sound echoed across the cemetery. He didn't flinch. He simply walked away, lighting a cigarette as he went. 1 week later, the will reading. The family lawyer sat behind a massive desk in the Lagos office, reading from a document that would change everything. To my beloved children Daniel and Diana, I leave equal shares of the Nwoko empire. All assets, all companies, all properties will be divided equally between them. Diana smiled through her tears. Daniel leaned back in his chair, relieved. However, the lawyer continued, his voice sharpening, there is one condition. The room fell silent. Each heir must be legally married before they can claim their inheritance. Marriage certificates must be provided within 6 months of this reading, or the inheritance will be forfeited to charity. What? Diana shot to her feet. That's insane. Daniel's jaw clenched. Married. His father was still controlling him, even from the grave. But as the shock faded, something else took its place. Calculation. He needed to marry. But he needed to marry someone he could control. Someone who wouldn't interfere with his life. Someone simple. And suddenly, an image formed in his mind. Amara. That night, Daniel called his closest friends. They sat in his study, whiskey glasses in hand, discussing his predicament. You need a girl who won't ask questions, his friend Chitty said, swirling his drink. Someone humble. Someone grateful just to be chosen. Someone you can control, another friend added. Daniel nodded slowly. I already have someone in mind. Who? My maid. They laughed, thinking he was joking. But when Daniel's expression didn't change, the laughter died. You're serious? Completely. Daniel stood, walking to the window. She's perfect. Innocent. Desperate for a better life. She'll agree to anything I ask. And after you get your inheritance? Daniel's smile turned cold. After that, I live my life however I want. She'll have her fairy tale. I'll have my freedom. Brilliant, Chitty said, raising his glass. Absolutely brilliant. The next morning, Amara found an envelope on her bed. Inside was a car key and a note in Daniel's handwriting. This is just the beginning. Meet me in the garden at sunset. D. Her hands shook as she clutched the key. Outside, parked in front of the servants' quarters, was a brand new car. Small, modest, but new. Hers. Tears streamed down her face as she fell to her knees. God, you remembered me. You finally remembered me. She had no idea she was walking straight into a trap. Your support means everything. Subscribe, share, and let us know where you're watching from. Together, we're giving hope to the hopeless. The wedding was small, intimate, and happened faster than anyone expected. 3 months. That's all it took for Daniel to transform Amara from a maid into his fiancée, and then into his wife. 3 months of roses and whispered promises. 3 months of expensive gifts and romantic dinners. 3 months of Daniel playing the role of a man in love so convincingly that even he almost believed it. Amara's family couldn't believe their fortune. Their eldest daughter, their precious girl who had left the village with nothing but prayers and hope, was marrying a billionaire. Daniel paid for everything. He renovated their family home, transforming the crumbling structure into something beautiful. He gave her father money to expand his farm. He sent her younger siblings to private schools. He was their savior, their miracle, and Amara loved him for it. On their wedding day, she stood in a white dress that cost more than her family had earned in 10 years, tears streaming down her face as she said her vows. She meant every word. I promise to love you, honor you, and stand by you for better or worse, until death do us part. Daniel repeated the same words, his voice smooth and confident. But if anyone had looked closely at his eyes, really looked, they would have seen the emptiness there. The calculation. He kissed her when the priest told him to, and the guests applauded. His mother smiled tightly from the front row. Diana rolled her eyes, already bored. And Amara, sweet, naive Amara, believed she had found her forever. For the first few months, Daniel played his part perfectly. He came home at reasonable hours. He took her to dinners. He held her hand in public and whispered sweet things in her ear that made her blush. At night, he was gentle with her, patient with her innocence, teaching her what it meant to be a wife. Amara bloomed under his attention. She smiled more, laughed more. She walked through the mansion no longer as a maid, but as its mistress, and the other staff bowed to her now, calling her madam. But deep inside, beneath the happiness, there was a small, persistent whisper of doubt. Sometimes she caught him staring at his phone with a strange expression. Sometimes he disappeared into his study for hours, claiming he was working. Sometimes she smelled perfume on his collar that wasn't hers. But every time she tried to ask, he would kiss her forehead and tell her she was imagining things. "You're my wife," he would say. "The only woman I need." And she would believe him, because she wanted to. Because she had to. 6 months after the wedding, everything changed. The inheritance was finalized. The lawyers confirmed that Daniel and Diana had both met the conditions of their father's will. The Nwoko Empire was officially theirs. That same week, Daniel stopped coming home before midnight. Amara would lie awake in their massive bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the silence of the empty house. When he finally stumbled in, reeking of alcohol and perfume, she would pretend to be asleep. But she wasn't sleeping. She was dying inside, piece by piece. One night, she couldn't take it anymore. She sat up as he entered the bedroom, her voice small in the darkness. "Daniel, where were you?" He didn't even look at her. "Out." "Out where? Does it matter?" He pulled off his shirt, tossing it carelessly on the floor. The same floor she used to clean as his maid. "I'm your wife. I deserve to know." He laughed, then a cold, bitter sound. "You're my wife because I needed you to be. Don't forget that." The words hit her like a slap. She felt tears burn behind her eyes, but she refused to cry. Not in front of him. "You promised me," she whispered. "You promised you would change." "I promised a lot of things." He turned to face her, his eyes hard. "Grow up, Amara. This is the real world. I gave you everything. A new life. Money. Status. What more do you want? I want you to love me." "Love." He laughed again. "Love is a fairy tale. This is business." He walked into the bathroom and slammed the door. Amara sat frozen, her entire world crumbling around her. The months that followed were torture. Daniel became crueler. He snapped at her over small things. He criticized her clothes, her cooking, her voice. He compared her to other women, women who were more beautiful, more sophisticated, more everything she could never be. And the women. God, the women. They called his phone at all hours. They sent him messages that popped up on his screen when he left it carelessly on the counter. They left lipstick stains on his collars and scratches on his back. When Amara confronted him, he would explode. "You're being paranoid. You're imagining things. If you can't handle being my wife, maybe you should go back to cleaning toilets." His mother and sister were no help. When Amara finally gathered the courage to tell them what was happening, they looked at her with cold, dismissive eyes. "Daniel has always been like this," his mother said, sipping her tea. "You knew who he was when you married him." "If you can't endure it," Diana added, examining her nails, "then you shouldn't have said yes." Amara left their house that day feeling more alone than she ever had in her life. Then came the sickness. It started with fatigue, a heaviness in her limbs that wouldn't go away. Then came the fevers, the night sweats, the strange rashes on her skin. At first, she thought it was stress, or maybe pregnancy. She bought test strips from the pharmacy, her hands shaking with hope. Negative. Every single one. Finally, she went to the hospital. The doctor was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She ran tests. Blood work. More tests. When she called Amara back into her office, her expression was grave. "Mrs. Nwoko, I need you to sit down." Amara sat, her heart pounding. "Your test results came back positive. You have HIV." The world stopped. Amara heard nothing else the doctor said. No explanations. No treatment options. No words of comfort. All she heard was the sound of her own heart breaking. She stumbled out of the hospital in a daze, climbed into her car, and drove home. For 3 days, she didn't leave her bedroom. She cried until there were no tears left. She prayed until her voice gave out. And Daniel was nowhere to be found. On the 4th day, Amara's tears stopped. Something inside her shifted, hardened. She sat up in bed, her eyes red but dry, and whispered into the empty room. "You took everything from me. Now I'll take everything from you." Silence became Amara's new language. After the diagnosis, after the tears had dried and the prayers had turned to ash in her mouth, something fundamental changed inside her. The girl who had once believed in miracles, who had trusted in God's provision, who had seen goodness in a world that had only ever taken from her, that girl died in the sterile white room of the hospital. What rose from her ashes was something else entirely. For days, she moved through the mansion like a ghost. The other staff noticed the change but said nothing. Her eyes, once warm and hopeful, had gone flat. Empty. When she looked at you, it felt like being seen by something no longer quite human. Daniel didn't notice. He was too busy living his life, traveling between Lagos and Abuja, attending parties, entertaining women whose names he wouldn't remember by morning. When he was home, Amara smiled at him. She cooked his favorite meals. She asked about his day in a soft, pleasant voice. And he, fool that he was, thought she had finally accepted her place. He had no idea he was living with a storm waiting to break. Amara spent her nights planning. She sat in the darkness of their bedroom, her laptop open, researching, learning, understanding exactly what had been done to her and what she could do in return. HIV, the virus that would slowly destroy her immune system. The gift her husband had given her through his recklessness, his endless parade of women, his complete disregard for consequences. She wasn't just angry. Anger was too small a word for what burned inside her chest. She was transformed, baptized in betrayal, born again into something darker. The family had made it clear where they stood. When she had gone to Daniel's mother, desperate for support, for intervention, for anything, the older woman had looked at her with cold indifference. "My son has always been this way," she'd said, stirring sugar into her tea. "His father was the same before he found God. These things run in families." "But he's killing me," Amara had whispered. "Then perhaps you should have chosen more carefully." The words were delivered without malice, simply as fact. "You wanted to marry a rich man. Well, this is what rich men do. Either accept it or leave." Diana had been even crueler. "Honestly, Amara, you're embarrassing yourself. You were a maid. You should be grateful he married you at all. Did you really think a man like my brother would be faithful to someone like you? Someone like you." Those words echoed in Amara's mind as she sat in the darkness, planning. They thought she was nothing. No one. A poor village girl who should be grateful for the crumbs from their table. They had forgotten something important. The most dangerous person in the world is someone who has nothing left to lose. Amara began to move differently through the world. She started going to the gym, building strength back into her body. She changed her hair, her clothes, her makeup. When she looked in the mirror now, she barely recognized herself. Gone was the shy, humble maid. In her place stood a woman with sharp eyes and sharper purpose. She began making phone calls. Quiet calls, from burner phones purchased with cash. She contacted people Daniel didn't know she knew. She asked questions. She gathered information. She learned about his business dealings, the shady contracts, the money laundered through shell companies. She learned about his women, their names, their addresses, their secrets. She learned about Diana's drug habit, carefully hidden from their mother. She learned about his mother's own affairs, the young men she entertained when she thought no one was watching. The Nwoko family had skeletons. So many skeletons. And Amara was going to drag every single one into the light. She also made other preparations. A bottle appeared in the back of the kitchen cabinet. Small, dark glass, filled with clear liquid. The staff never noticed it. Why would they? Amara was the lady of the house now. She could keep whatever she wanted in her own kitchen. She began inviting Diana over for lunch. Sisterly bonding, she called it. Diana, surprised but pleased by the attention, accepted. They sat in the garden drinking wine, talking about nothing. Amara laughed at Diana's jokes, sympathized with her complaints, complimented her clothes. Diana had no idea she was sitting across from a predator studying its prey. "You know," Diana said one afternoon, already tipsy from her third glass of wine, "I never thought Daniel would actually go through with marrying you. I thought it was just one of his games." "It was," Amara said softly, pouring more wine. "But the joke's on him now, isn't it?" Diana laughed, not understanding. "I suppose it is." Amara smiled. Soon, Diana would understand everything. With Daniel's mother, Amara was even more careful. She began visiting the older woman regularly, bringing gifts, seeking advice, playing the role of the dutiful daughter-in-law who just wanted to learn from her elder. Mrs. Nwoko, flattered by the attention, welcomed her. They had tea together. They talked about family, about tradition, about what it meant to be a Nwoko woman. "You must be strong," Mrs. Nwoko told her. "Men will always be men. But we as women must endure. That is our strength." "You're so wise," Amara said, her voice honey-sweet. "I only hope I can be as strong as you." Mrs. Nwoko smiled, sipping her tea, completely unaware that the girl sitting across from her had already marked her for destruction. One evening, Amara's phone buzzed. A message from Daniel. "Coming home tonight. Late. Don't wait up." She stared at the message for a long moment, then typed back. "I'll have dinner waiting. Come home safe." She set the phone down and walked to the kitchen. From the back of the cabinet, she retrieved the dark bottle. She held it up to the light, watching the liquid inside catch and shimmer. Everything was ready. All she needed now was for him to come home. She hummed softly as she began preparing his favorite meal, a small smile playing at the corners of her lips. The smile held no warmth. No joy. Only the cold satisfaction of a plan finally coming to fruition. Outside, thunder rumbled in the distance. A storm was coming. But the real storm was already inside the house, wearing an apron and stirring poison into a pot. The mansion was quieter than usual that night. The other staff had been given the evening off. Amara had insisted, claiming she wanted to prepare a special dinner for her husband. They'd left gratefully, eager for a rare night of freedom. Now she was alone. She moved through the kitchen with practiced precision, her hands steady as she chopped vegetables, seasoned meat, stirred the pot that simmered on the stove. The aroma filled the house, rich and inviting. Anyone watching would have seen a devoted wife preparing a meal for her husband. No one would have seen the darkness in her eyes, the coldness in her smile, the small, empty bottle now hidden at the bottom of the trash bin. She set the dining table with care. The good china, crystal wine glasses, candles flickering in silver holders. Everything perfect, everything beautiful. A last supper. At exactly 11:30, she heard his car pull into the driveway. Amara smoothed her dress, checked her reflection in the hallway mirror, and waited. Daniel stumbled through the door, his tie loosened, his shirt wrinkled, reeking of perfume and alcohol. He looked surprised to see her standing there. "You're still awake? I told you I'd have dinner waiting." Her voice was soft, pleasant. "Are you hungry?" He shrugged, tossing his jacket carelessly on the sofa. "I could eat." "Good. I made your favorite. Pepper soup with goat meat, pounded yam, and egusi soup." Something flickered in his eyes. Suspicion? Curiosity? But then his stomach growled, and whatever thought he'd had disappeared. "All right. Let me wash up first." "I'll wait." 20 minutes later, Daniel sat at the head of the dining table, Amara across from him. She watched as he lifted the first spoonful of soup to his lips. "This smells incredible," he said, almost grudgingly. It had been months since she'd cooked for him like this. "I wanted tonight to be special." He grunted, already focused on his food. He ate with the single-minded intensity of a man who hadn't had a proper meal in days. The pounded yam disappeared in large chunks. The egusi soup vanished from his plate. Amara didn't touch her own food. She simply sat, hands folded in her lap, watching. "You're not eating?" he asked between bites. "I'm not hungry. I ate earlier." He shrugged and continued eating. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. Daniel pushed back from the table, patting his stomach. "That was good. I forgot how well you..." He stopped mid-sentence. His hand went to his stomach. "Daniel, I don't..." His face twisted. "I don't feel right." "What's wrong?" "My stomach. It feels..." He doubled over suddenly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Something's wrong. Something's really wrong." Amara stood slowly, calmly, and walked around the table. She looked down at him as sweat began pouring down his face. "Amara, call someone. Call the hospital. I think I'm having a reaction to something." "A reaction," she repeated softly. "Yes, I suppose you are." He looked up at her, confusion cutting through his pain. "What? Do you remember 6 months ago?" Her voice was eerily calm. "When I came to you crying, telling you I'd been to the hospital. That I was sick." His eyes widened, understanding beginning to dawn. "You didn't even ask what was wrong. You were too busy packing for your trip to Abuja. Too busy texting one of your girls." "Amara," he tried to stand, but his legs buckled. He fell to his knees, clutching his stomach. The pain was intensifying, spreading through his body like fire. "HIV, Daniel. That's what the doctor told me. Your gift to me. Your legacy." No, that's not. I didn't." He was gasping now, his words fragmenting. "You did. Through your recklessness. Your endless women. Your complete disregard for consequences." She knelt down beside him, her face inches from his. "You infected me with a disease that will slowly kill me. You took everything from me. My health. My future. My dreams." He vomited suddenly, violently. Foam gathered at the corners of his mouth. His body began to convulse. "So I decided to take something from you." Her voice was almost tender now. "Your life. Please." The word was barely a whisper. "Hospital, please." She stood, walking back to her chair, sitting down with perfect posture. "Now you know how it feels to die slowly. Well, faster than HIV, but the principle is the same." Daniel's body jerked once, twice, then went terrifyingly still. His eyes were open, staring at nothing, foam and blood trickling from his mouth. Amara sat for a long moment in the silence, looking at the man who had destroyed her. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No regret. Just emptiness. Finally, she reached for her phone. She scrolled through her contacts until she found Diana's number. She pressed call. It rang 3 times before Diana answered, her voice sleepy and annoyed. Amara? Do you know what time it is? Hello, Diana. Amara's voice was soft, almost seductive. I'm sorry to call so late, but I have something I need to tell you. Something I can't keep inside anymore. What are you talking about? I've been thinking about you. A lot. More than I should. She paused, letting the words hang in the air. I think I'm falling in love with you. Silence on the other end. Shocked, confused silence. I know this might seem sudden, Amara continued, her voice dropping lower, more intimate. But these feelings, they're consuming me. Maybe I could come over tonight. Show you what I mean. Are you insane? Have you lost your mind? Perhaps. Amara smiled, looking at Daniel's body on the floor. Or perhaps I've finally found it. Think about it, Diana. I'll be waiting. She hung up. Then she stood, smoothed her dress, and walked calmly out of the dining room, leaving her husband's body behind like discarded garbage. This is not the end of Amara's story. Part 2 is coming. Subscribe now to see what happens next. Share this story with someone who needs to understand that the powerless don't stay powerless forever. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from and what you think will happen next.